Javier, when you're coming out of the pits, mate, can you leave way for the guys on a flying lap and not be...
Sunlight begins to fade now, and I feel like I'm losing time, but I don't know how I'm here. The sunlight has turned to gray, and I feel like I'm losing love again. I don't know how I'm here. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. I could feel your heartbeat. I could feel somewhere you're looking down. 'Cause it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna breathe. And it's you I'm loving, and it's you that I wanna need.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Simracersworld TV for the SRW GT Pro Series. We're at round 2, we're at the Temple of Speed here at Monza in Italy. One of the most well-renowned, one of the most famous and most demanding tracks that are around, still in existence. Certainly a legendary place. I am expecting legendary action tonight. I'm here of course with the lovely young and brilliant Jack Werrell. Jack, your expectations for tonight?
Well, first of all, good evening everybody, but wow, I have some very high expectations and I'm sure they'll be delivered upon. Bearing in mind, round 1 at Sebring was absolutely insane. Yes, the G-Drive guys were leading it from the front, but it doesn't mean they weren't battling. We definitely weren't short of action up and down the order as well. The Manatee Ford GTs, I think we need to keep an eye out for those this evening, and the Manatee BMWs as well. And well, Monza brings a whole new idea of racing to the table because it's mainly about draft and how you can utilize that going into the closing stages of the race, and obviously pit strategy as well. So we've got a hell of a lot to look forward to, and I can't wait for it to get underway.
Well, I do agree. It's going to be a big show indeed, and it's a tough place just to get proceedings on the way. Always, I think Monza, the one place where we see the most turn 1 incidents, I think, of all tracks, and a lot of tracks have demanding turn 1, but this first chicane here, getting through it just alive, everyone, it's a major achievement indeed. Let's go to some live pictures and see what the drivers are up to. at the moment here. Qualifying is going on. And we've got big surprise here. Martin van Loosenoord from the G-Drive Racing Eximia team. Provisionally fastest. There I am, indeed, Porsche Sport. And by the way, welcome everyone, as Jack said as well. It's lovely having you along. Thanks so much for tuning in here on YouTube, on Twitch, or on our Facebook channel, SRW TV. And as I mentioned before, Martin van Loosenoord, the winner of the opening round. And speaking of the opening round, I think it's a good place and time in proceedings to have a look at the standings. Mind you, we had our opening round at Sebring 2 weeks ago. We had a hell of a race. And now we have Martin van Loosenoord leading proceedings with 100 points in front of Bram van Putten, his teammate in the G-Drive Racing Eximia team. Johnny Verhoeven for Manatee Racing, 80 points, alongside Scott D. Andrews, who was 4th, Ferris Stanley, Joop de Ligt, Mario Yuri, Daniel Handover in the top 10 as well, alongside Pim Bao in the 4th of the G-Drive Eximia machines on 55 points. And Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres, our lovely friends from Zenith Esports, is rounding off the top 10 there, 45 points. And it's tightly packed for the rest of it. And that's a testament to the points system we're using here, that it still gives points for the lower down finishes, which I think is really, really nice to see indeed. And with that said, back to qualifying. And let's get some qualifying laps on display. And Jack, of course, Monza very, very much known for outright speed and a track that really favors the top speed strong of cars. But it's really more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is, because you've got these tight chicanes that really just sort of get thrown in the mix at various points around the circuit. We're currently looking at Loosenoord navigate his way through the Ascari chicane, going onto the back straight on the run up to Parabolica. And I think if you nail that, it will really make all the difference. Even if it's just 1, 2, maybe 3 miles an hour quicker that you exit one of the chicanes, that will make a massive difference as it adds up more and more and more as you go down the straight. And if you're in the draft as well, that could round up to a nice little 10, 15 mile an hour, which is really going to make a difference around a circuit with straights as long as they are here. And well, we've just finished the 20-minute qualifying session, and Martin van Loosenoord at the moment still in provisional pole position with a 1 minute 43.86. Still got Nicholas Last, our current provisional P2 driver for Sim Racing Academy, on provisional P2, followed by Jeremy Verhoeven, Joop de Ligt, and Ferris Stanley, just to go through the top 5. We'll have some more confirmed results as the session ticks over, but we still have drivers out on circuit at the moment. Somebody I think we'll need to watch is Tom Methwell. He's been getting quicker and quicker throughout the session, and he is really in the mix at the moment, because from 15th to 21st is separated by 1/10 of a second.
That's absolutely impressive to see, and also not a huge difference indeed between platinum and gold classes here, with just 0.3 of a second separating the two. And those 20 minutes of qualifying, I know we went live 5 minutes into it, 10 minutes into it or so. Those minutes of qualifying absolutely flew by, and I have to say, I would have been paying a bit more attention had I actually been aware of the fact that we were closing in on the final seconds of our qualifying session here. But we're gonna have the final couple of cars passing the line shortly, the final couple of laps being put in, being done, and final amendments being made for the cars who have not yet really set in a satisfying time. Still Tom Methwell going about, but he's been just a sector of it has been up, and a 45.170. That's not gonna put him anywhere up the order. He's gonna finish there in 18th place. Let's see if we have anyone else still on track. I think Martin van Rooyen for Simpact, but he's going very slowly. That indeed does look like a cancelled lap, and so it was for Carl Sharkey as well. And with that, I think we're just awaiting the grid results And when they do pop up on your screen in a short moment, I'll take you over to the brilliant Jack Werrell.
As soon as we get the overlay.
Yeah, I just thought I might have been a little bit too early on that one. I was hoping for them. Oh, pop up, come on. But it just occurred to me that we might have to wait for a moment here. It might actually have to wait until Martin van Røvik, my very own teammate, decides to have enough of going slowly around the track.
In the chat, Hasse, and Antoine Dupin has said, unfortunately, Diego Hames is sick and will not race this evening. And Diego Hames, he's on 43 points, so he is in a sort of a midway point in the championship. So the Flemish Simsports driver sadly missing out on what could be some good points gained this evening. The grid, we do have the grid for you. It's Martin van Loosnoord on pole position with a 1 minute 43.861, followed by Nicolas Last, just 1.5 tenths behind. Then we go on to row 2 with Jeremy Verhoeven, Job de Ligt, and Ferry Stanley has Bram van Putten for company on row 3. Rutger Weinen lines up alongside Alejandro Torres for P7 and P8. Jack Ashton and Robin Deville round out the top 10, and we can run you very quickly through the rest of the grid. We've got Sam Bentham, Nicolas Scottaniveau, and if we go down another slide, we might get there. Hasse, if you please.
Well, there it is.
There we go. Jerry Hessels lines up in P13, 1 full second behind the pole position of Martin van Loosnoord. P14 is Mario Yuri, followed by Pimbau, Ryan Parkins. He will be somebody to look out for, newcomer to the championship. Then we go to row 9 of the grid with Seb Herberet and Tom Metherell. Keanu Bourguignon and John Barnes round out the top 20. Then we've got Bart Daleman and Dries Muji, P21 and P22. Martin van der Ewijk lines up. I didn't see the rest of them. Bazooka, please, can you go up? Martin van der Ewijk lines up P24, I think, and I didn't quite catch who lines up in P25. I think it's Neil Cooper. Then we go to Bod Boland and Javier Rodriguez, Ewan Marshall, Jordan McLeod, Daniel Handover, Sebastian Hawkins, Paul Gosling, Ryan Walker, John Tusting. Keep an eye out for him. He's a newcomer as well for Strasser. Then Carl Sharkey and Lee Deemer in P35 and P36. And I think that is the grid now. We've still got a couple more to go. Then we've got Cammy Sturge, Dean Timms, Austin Greatorex, David Fuller, and Chris Walsh lines up at the very last spot on the grid in P41. That's a big old grid, Hasse.
That is a big old grid indeed, Jack, and brilliant stuff on the read up there. So here we have it, the entire field, and they are now moving towards the start-finish line. And that means moving towards the green flag as well. They'll be seeing it in not too long. It's a big old field here. It's going to be more than tightly contested. And the first 5-10 laps here, I predict to be very, very hectic indeed. Let's see if the top runners is going to be able to keep positions, to keep alive. It's usually a little bit easier for them with a little bit more clear space, or clearer space ahead, you could say. Martin van Loosnoord strong again here. Nicolas Last, very, very nicely put there in second place for his BMW. BMW all over the top 5 with a lockout indeed with Johnny Verhoeven, Joop de Ligt and Bram van Putten. But as you mentioned, Jack, much more competition for the G-Drive machines here. Early days in qualifying. Let's see if the competitors, if the competing BMW teams, and indeed the Ferraris, BMWs, and, well, Porsches and Fords, the BMWs already mentioned. But if the other teams as well do have the pace on race day here, or race time, as it comes right after. But we have the green flag coming up, and I think when they go, and they're already off. Early start there, Loosnoord. He gets it off well, and Johnny Verhoeven has a big old run there on Nicolas Last, and we're going to watch down a little bit further down the field. Maybe see if we can get a bit of a better shot. Oh, that's beautiful as they come down to the first chicane, and this is where it all gets very spicy indeed normally. Oh, and already there, that's Nicolas Last going straight onto the runoff, and someone else, that's one of his teammates as well. Tom Metherell almost still standing. Someone's off to the right-hand side there, but so far no major carnage, Jack.
Martin van Loosnoord's dropping down the order as well, so I'm not quite sure what happened. That could just be the same issue I had last week, but I've got lots of cars dropping down the order. I think that could possibly just be my connection. But at the moment, there we go, he's back up to the top. Martin van Loosnord currently leading the way. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's definitely not my connection. He has dropped down, so we'll have to have a look back just to see what happened to Martin van Loosnord, but he's lost the lead. So Johnny Verhoeven for Manatee Racing has taken top honours at the moment. Bram van Putten, so he's got rid of one G-Drive car, and Johnny Verhoeven has got the attentions of another. His Manatee teammate, Job de Ligt, is in P3 at the moment. Ferry Stanley, the highest rated gold driver for HM Engineering, is all the way up in P4, followed by Rutger Vine and Alejandro de la Mata Torres, and Martin van Loosnord all the way down in P7.
Yeah, and blinding start there. Johnny Verhoeven taking the lead. A very good start indeed, and I am having a bit of a bad feeling for the leading duo on the grid, because Niklas Last is down in 13th place. Here it is. I'm afraid I haven't been able to find at least any bit of the replays there, but aside from these cars, which also just lends me to believe that they haven't necessarily been off track as much as they just had a bit of a situation. You can see Niklas Last there in the 99 Sim Racing Academy car. Certainly has a dent there in his left front side there. He's now side by side with the Strasse Porsche Sport 911. And that's the car of Ryan Parkins, who's doing so well for himself in the Porsche Club of Great Britain. 911 GT3 Cup and almost going 3 wide there, but Ryan Parkins certainly thinking better of it. Niklas Last sending it immediately. And that's on Robin de Ville and the Flemish Sim Sports BMW as well there. Johnny Verhoeven still in the lead, and with a sizable gap of 1.5 seconds down to Bram van Putten here. Amazing stuff.
He's done a great job of working his way right the way up to the sharp end of the field, but he's still got Bram van Putten making inroads to his lead, but he will be occupied with another Manatee car of Job de Ligt. Rutger Vinen is there as well, so another Manatee car. We've got Manatee cars all the way spreading across the top 5, but he's getting more pressure from Ferry Stanley, who is now back down into P5. So he's really sort of been shown where he needs to be. Martin van Loosnord has worked his way up into P6 now, so he's got past Alejandro Torres. Jack Ashton for Team Vordzilla is in P8, Pim Bao P9, and Sam Bentham in P10. We've got lots of battles up and down here. I don't know where to look, but it looks like Martin van Loosnord is looking to the inside of Ferry Stanley, and I think he might just get past on the run-up to Ascari. On the brakes, he gets up the inside. The next target for him will be a Manatee car of Job de Ligt.
Let's see if we can get another look here of Martin van Loosnord into Ascari. A famous chicane named after a very famous racing driver indeed, and that was as smooth as they come from Martin van Loosnord. And I do believe Ferris Stanley also had second thoughts about wanting to battle it out with a gentleman he knows to be extremely quick indeed. And up into 5th place, Martin van Loosnord goes. Now on a quest to claw back some of that time. Quick times being put in there from Johnny Verhoeven. And Bram van Putten gained 4 positions, started in 6th, up into 2nd place now. And a bit of a swirly moment there for one of the 4 GTs in behind. I think that was the car of Jack Ashton, the #1 machine of the reigning champ, who has yet to really make things work for him this season. I think we all had great expectations to him and Team Vordzilla in general, but they've been having a bit of a tough time here early days this season, of course. Things could very well change for them. We also got a bit of a battle here further down the orders. That Jeremy Hessels it is in the Dynamics Racing 88 machine. He's pushing to get past on Ryan Parkins, who's up into 12th place, and Ryan Parkins is not going to give up any kind of space here, as we're approaching the 5-minute mark of this hour-and-a-half long race. And mind you, 65% of fuel in the tanks here, so we're expecting 2 stops. That's at least what we saw at Sebring, and I'd be very surprised to find it different here at Monza with the amount of flat out for the cars. And let's see here, we've been having some new cameras mounted to the cars. So here's the nose cam mounted right atop the windscreen, so it's actually a bit more of a roof cam, you could say, on board with Jeremy Hessels. And actually, look at that on the outside. Oh, that's Mario Jury. And another BMW. Oh, as I think Jeremy Hessel gets a little too far onto the AstroTurf there. His exit's gonna suffer. And all the way down to the first chicane. And I don't think he's gonna hold that position. Not a chance. But look at the speed difference the BMWs and the Porsches compared, Jack.
Yeah, I thought there'd be, well, they would really be telling the tale of which car has got the grunt on the straights, and I thought the BMW was quite good. That's the Dynamics car of Jeremy Hessel's clattering into the back of Nicholas Last. We're now looking back at that battle. We've had an incident for Martin van der Ewijk, Daniel Handover and Bart Daleman. I'm not sure whether they're all related, but it wouldn't surprise me if they weren't. Look how close this battle is now. Let's have a look, see what happened going into turn one. There's Martin van der Ewijk. Does he get a punt from behind? No, there's a car backwards. That's the number 77. Let me have a look through to see who that is. That's Dries Mujdi. Let's see what happens here. He gets spun around by one of the Ferraris. I think that might have been the number 57 of Javier Garcia Rodriguez.
Yeah, I think it indeed was. And here's Bart Daleman, Simracersworld Esports, and for some reason that livery has not loaded correctly. It's a little bit annoying, but bad luck there. We were without any big turn one incidents, at least for so long, but no more here as we're on what, lap 5, 6. Let's get the lap display up. I'll get that sorted. So on lap 4 of the race, it didn't last long, did it? But we did mention it coming into this one, expecting chaos here. Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres, he's down into 7th place.
He is indeed not quite where he'd want to be at the moment.
I'm sorry, Jack. It seems to me he's actually gained a position overall, so it's not all bad for Alejandro Torres. That was just my misinterpreting of the data we're being fed. Up ahead is a three-way battle going on between Martin van Loosenoord, Rutger Wijnen, and Ferris Stanley, the Monegasque. One of the drivers with very, very good names. I have to say, a driver with a good name, and Ferris Stanley certainly up there. Not too many Monegasque drivers. That's pretty obvious since Monaco, or Monte Carlo, if you will, being a small municipality indeed. So principality, that is, not a municipality. But that little difference. That little difference. Incredible place, Jack. You ever been?
No, I would love to. It's definitely on the bucket list. I would probably. It's going to be quite controversial. I'd like to see Formula E there instead of Formula One. But it's definitely a place nonetheless, whether you go for motorsport or not. But I'm sure Ferris Stanley, this is going to be the last thing in his mind of where he's from. He's mainly focused on Italy at the moment, and specifically Monza, because he's trying to make inroads into Rutger Wijnen. Ferris has lost one position from where he started, so he'll be looking to make amends for that. We're now riding on board with Jack Ashton on the run-up to Parabolica. He's not got much in the way of defence from Nicholas Last. He's about 7.5 tenths behind, but he's going to be aiming for Pim Bao here, the G-Drive BMW. Going into Parabolica, all about mechanical grip through here, because downforce won't be massively affected. Here's where the downforce will kick in, but she'll start to pick up the speed. The air will start pushing down on the front and rear wing and pushing the car into the road, but Jack Ashton will stay on board with him, I hope, just so he can see what difference this draft makes. That was quite a short gear ratio there, so I think it's almost going IndyCar strategies for the Ford GT, but it looks like the BMW's got the grunt on the straight, even though the Ford GT is in the draft going into turns 1 and 2. The chicane is much tighter than it looks, but Jack Ashton navigates that quite well, and the gap seems to be about what it was when they came out of Parabolica.
Yeah, very much so, and it seems that little bit of damage to the left front of Jack Ashton's car, I'm sure it's not helping him either, but the BMWs are rumored to have a massive speed advantage in terms of top speed at least, and I think it's really showing out here, or showing off at the moment very well indeed for BMW, as they're first through 5th with a lockout at the moment, then 2 Ferraris, the BMW of Pim Bao, then Jack Ashton here as we're seeing in 9th place. That battle still very much happening. In behind is Nicholas Last, who's very much not that. He's in 10th place. Sam Bentham and Ryan Parkins, Jory Hessels, Bourguignon, DeVille, Tom Metherell, Seb Hebera, Barnes, and Rodriguez in 20th place. And just a mention, just 2 Porsches in the top 20, 3 Ferraris.
Yeah, I was just looking through the chat earlier, and Porsche Sport did allude to what the drivers will be struggling with this evening, and I'm not sure whether there's been a balance of performance recently, but they did sort of mention that slightly. We're now looking at the tail end of Jack Ashton's car, looking back at Pim Bao now. So the Ford GT now we're looking back at Nicholas last, pardon me. And that damage we'll see, even though both the cars have got damage, whether that BMW will be able to keep up with the Ford. It looks like he's gaining very, very marginally going into turn 1. Let's see whether Nicholas will have a look. He's filling his mirrors halfway there. I don't think he's going to go for it. I say that, but late on the brakes, he has a look. Decides to pull out of the move because he doesn't want to compromise himself too much, because just behind him is Sam Bentham for Ronin Simsport Academy.
Yeah, it's a close bit of traffic here, this part of track. Also up ahead here, Martin Losenord with not a lot of space down to Rutger Weinen. Van Losenord has gained a couple of places. He's up into 4th place now, and he's chasing down the trio of Johnny Verhoef, Bram van Putten, and Joop de Ligt. There's now also 5 Dutchmen at the head of affairs here at round 2. Well, that's a funky camera angle as the helicopter follows the cars around. But you know what? It's not bad at all.
No, I do quite like that as well, but just look at how much time Martin van Loosnoord has made up. I know the draft would really make a difference and all the exit speed you can carry through, but I think Martin van Loosnoord, I quite like that camera as well because you can see the old oval, but Martin van Loosnoord, even with what I think might be very, very minor damage from the earlier incident that he could have possibly been involved with, clattering over the curbs, clearly confident within the car, and it means he's gone from 7th, caught up to the cars in front, overtaken them, and he's already starting to build a gap. And all he's got, once again, are BMWs in front of him, but he has now got Bram van Putten, his G-Drive teammate. Well, just about. They're swapping around side by side, 3 parabolic at Bram van Putten on the inside, Joop de Ligt on the outside, BMW versus BMW. Let's see who can get the better run. It looks like Joop de Ligt has carried a bit more momentum around the outside going into turn 1. He will be on the outside once again. But we'll stick with this battle. Bram van Putten slowly starting to lose out, properly side by side, nothing between the two of them. Properly close stuff, this Bram van Putten, neither one of the drivers wanting to back down. It looks like he's got back in front again, and Joop de Ligt might just have to concede the place. But let's see whether he can get the better run going out of the first chicane. It looks like Bram van Putten has made that move stick, and he's built up quite a nice bit of breathing space on the run up to turns 4 and 5.
Yeah, indeed, here as he coming through the Curva Grande. And there's a little detail that I just noticed, Jack, that the Manatee Racing team, they've switched from Ford GT to the BMW M8, and I think that's just a recognition of the fact that the BMW is superior at the moment. Ferris Stanley doing a very good job, the leading gold driver, hanging on to the trio. That's now just the duo in front of him, but he's a part of that duo, and then it becomes a trio. So I'm not completely wrong on that one anyway, but he's doing very well to keep a hold and a leash on Van Loosnoord and Rutger Weinen up ahead, because they've really been setting the pace, and it is really slowly but surely becoming a Manatee versus G-Drive show off here, with Manatee leading G-Drive, then Manatee, then G-Drive, and with that, I think we're down to Rutger Weinen, who's also a Manatee Racing driver, and then Ferris Stanley. A bit of a gap then there down to Alex Torres, Pim Bao, a little bit of way down ahead, but I think he's pulled away from, and he's pulled away big time from the cars he were around just a few laps ago here, as we're into the 14th minute of racing. We're on lap 9. Lap times are slowly beginning to drop off. It seems we're now at the 45 sevenths, which I think is a little bit surprising actually. And
yeah,
that's... I'm sorry, Jack. Go on.
I was going to say I wasn't quite expecting it to drop off this early. Maybe strategy is in play here, but Jeremy Hessel's picking up a position just about, swapping side by side with Keanu Bourguignon, the Flemish Simsports driver, for what is P12. Still side by side. Jeremy Hessels will have to go the long way around. He nearly gets cut off there. So I think that was quite respectable driving between the pair of them. Neither one of them wanting to make contact. The Flemish Simsport car of Robin de Ville would have had a great view of that in the BMW, but he's now chasing down Jeremy Hessels. But it's pretty much a Dynamics car is the meat in the Flemish Simsport sandwich here, going up to the second chicane, turns 4 and 5. He has a little look, but decides this isn't the place to do it, so he'll focus on Lesmo 1 and 2 and see what he can do on the run up to Ascari down the hill and in the draft very shortly. But look at the run by Robin de Ville. He has a look to the inside, and that seems to be what the sort of tactic is. Have a little look, see whether the move's on, and if not, we'll just pull back into the draft, because you know you'll be back on them within no time.
Yeah, that's very much true. If you can keep the draft here at Monza, it's easy to get away with losing a little bit of time here and there otherwise. So you can take liberties, take your freedom here and there to try and set up something, or to just stay off the gas. And in a race like this, Jack. Well, that's Jack and Jazz combined into one super commentator, of which you've never seen the likes before. Enter Jazz. No, with the serious hat back on, there could be serious gains to be made actually through strategy in that way, because with the limited fuel tank sizes here of 65% of the tank, that does make every drop that goes into those very tanks very precious indeed. And a position of that like Robin DeVille at the moment is certainly not a bad one to be in, because he doesn't seem to have any big troubles keeping up with Jeremy Hessels here ahead. At the same time, he's not really seeming to be all over his rear end. And positions, of course, track positions could be very important here. There's a battle here as Jack Ashton is having a look up the inside here of Seb Hebera. And Jack Ashton now down into 15th place. He has not had a good race so far. I think it can only get better for him from here. And that same trio of Van Loosenhoort, Weinen, and Ferris Stanley still making it round, but they're gaining. And they're gaining on Bram van Putten and Joop de Ligt, I think, up ahead. That gap looked a little bit smaller than it was before. But saying that, oh yeah, there it is. Actually, Joop de Ligt right on the tail still of Bram van Putten. And they're really having a go at it for top positions as well. And meanwhile, Ryan Parkins, Sam Bentham is pretty close with one another as well. Sam Bentham in the number 89 Ronin Simsport Academy car. Nothing really coming out of it, and again I feel like we're seeing this quite a bit. Drivers trying to play the long game, trying to remember that there is still an hour and 10 minutes left to race in, and if they don't get it right, they could get it very wrong indeed, and chances of that seem to go up if you're a little bit too eager getting into those battles here. Robin DeVille is still very close to Jeremy Hessels. And still not really finding any luck here. He seems to get very close every time coming into the Parabolica. They had a big fight here a few laps ago. Now they're just deciding to let it settle as well. They've got Jack Ashton, Seb Hebera, Tom Metherell, and Javier Garcia Rodriguez behind. Then Martin van Rooijek, who had a bit of a moment there. He's now trying to get past the Spaniard ahead. Trying to make up for what happened earlier on. Jordan McClone, his Simpac teammate, by the way, is suffering a bit. I'd say as well, he's down in 34th position. And they as well were speaking of tough times in the 911 RSR, coming into here really having a difficult time finding the necessary top speed to really be competitive. And especially with the BMW, but also with the Ferraris. Seem to be quite a bit stronger. You can see in the braking zones that the Porsche is indeed doing well for itself there. A bit of a dent to the rear end of McClone's car as well, so that's not perfect for him. And all the while, a bit of action here up the field as Ewan Marshall might have had a bit of a moment here. Into the middle chicane. No, it's actually a finely measured pass, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, it is indeed. I think if it popped up as an incident or he went off track, he might have just clattered the curb so hard that iRacing thought he had a crash. And speaking of clattering the curbs, it looks like that car has been in the wars a little bit. The tail end of that car has got a hit, but there's a very suspicious bent front bumper on Daniel Handover's car, so I think they might have been trading a bit of paint a little earlier on in the race, and we haven't quite caught it. But Ewan Marshall for Meraki Racing now up into P25, gained 3 positions from where he started. The next target will be Bart Daleman in the Simracersworld Porsche, and I figured out why, because Ian in chat said that there isn't an SRW livery on that Porsche this evening because the paint is still in the design phase, so I'm not sure how you can make the SRW livery any better, but they're certainly giving it a go, so I'm sure we'll see that out in a couple of weeks' time. But Bart Daleman now in P24, and he's got quite the gap all the way up to John Barnes now, almost 3 seconds up to the Quantum Racing 4GT driver, who has now got Seb Hawkins in front of him. I think Nicholas Lash just got in front going into the first chicane. He has indeed. He's got past and in front. So Nicholas Lash leading Seb Hawkins now for Abruzzi Esports. Nicholas Lash for Sim Racing Academy, so the 99 car. Slowly working his way back up through the order. We've got to remember he started in P2 and he is now all the way down in P21, so not where he would want to be. We're now looking back from Bram van Putten, currently in provisional P2, looking back at Job de Ligt for Manatee Racing. Is he going to have a look at the inside? He gets very close on the brakes on the run up to Ascari, over the curbs once, twice, and almost 3 times here. I'm sure he'll use all the curb there. There we go. And maybe a bit of grass. Oh yeah, obviously. He's Bram van Putten, he knows how to use all the track and that little bit extra, but look at that gap he got. That's exactly what I was talking about in qualifying. If you can get the run, it will really add up towards the end of the straight, and even though Job de Ligt is in the draft, he's still got quite the gap back. And look, these two have sort of formed the pair, but while they've been battling, Johnny Verhoeven has really disappeared into the distance. 2.4 seconds he is to the good.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is, and it's enough to put him clear of the slipstream as well as the cars behind, and that's a very important fact as well for Johnny Verhoeven in the 93 machine. He is looking very good indeed, and I actually think Manatee might be playing a bit of a real endurance kind of tactic here, because they're having Johnny Verhoeven here up ahead as a sort of rabbit. As you will, there is a well-known kind of tactic in endurance racing where if you as a team can put one car up ahead to really push hard, and the remaining cars has to respond to that, and then you can just play the long tactical game in behind. And I'm not really sure that they would be planning to do such thing from the start, but whatsoever, Job de Ligt is doing it very well right now. He's sitting on the tail of Bram van Putten, and Rutger Venen is playing his part as well, with Martin van Loosenhout on his tail. Still Ferris Stanley able to keep up, not really able to do much more than that, I think. And very mature driving as well, I want to say, from the Monegasque Gold driver, to just come to the conclusion that it's probably the best thing just to stay on the tail of the cars ahead. Of course, in the gold standings, he will be aided by the fact that he's in the slipstream of these cars still, and there's quite a bit of distance down to Pim Bao, who's the second of the gold drivers, and Mario Jury, who's in 9th place overall, is third. While that's happening, we're having a close fight here, still between, well, that's Pim Bao, Mario Jury, I think Ryan Parkins and Sam Bentham in the 89 Ronin Sim Sport Academy Ford GT.
You did just see Mario Yori look up the inside of Pim Bao on the run up to Parabolica, but nothing came of it. But this is where it's really important. You've got to keep an eye on the BMWs leading this 4-car battle. So I've got a feeling Mario Yori might have got the better run coming out of there. The gap is definitely coming down, but I don't think he'll be close enough. Bram van Putten still very close to Job de Ligt. Only a 10th between them two, between those two. They must be almost side by side. But now looking at Job de Ligt, have a look to the outside, probably not the preferred line going up to turn 1, squeezing Bram van Putten. Throws the car over to the outside to see whether he can get the wider line coming in, opens up the corner. Job de Ligt not quite getting the position there, has a look for the cutback. We'll go back live with them. They've just exited the second chicane going into Lesmo 1. Job de Ligt still behind. You saw Rutger Vinen and Martin van Loosenhout hard at work in the background, so it looks like you said earlier, Hasse, that G-Drive and Manatee will really be battling away throughout the season. And like you said earlier, the top 5 are all BMWs. They're either G-Drive or Manatee, and they're all Dutch.
Yeah, they have a whole lot in common, it has to be said. And a very good point from Ian that the Manatee racing team used their one car swap of this season. We have a single one, and any more car swaps would incur great penalties for Manatee Racing. So they've now gone for the BMW. They're gonna have to stick with it for the rest of the season. I couldn't really imagine G-Drive being too unhappy with the performance of the BMW at the moment here. It seems to be the one to really match, and now a really good battle here as Job de Ligt gets a big run out of the Parabolica. They're side by side, and the question is, how much is he going to be in front in the braking zone into the chicane here? Job de Ligt and Bram van Putten, but Van Putten almost loses it. He manages just about to keep the rear on composure, and in turn the exit he gets there from the chicane and in to the Curva Grande is not the best one as well, but the inside line being the preferred one here. It's all about overlap for Job de Ligt. He's gonna try to be late on the brakes here, keep that inside. It becomes the outside for the second part and the Lesmo, so you have to get the run, and he does, but is it enough? Oh, beautiful racing here. And for podium positions as well, so it's all on the line. Job de Ligt, Bram van Putten, what a show being put on here as we go on board with the G-Drive 23 machine here. And from the second last one, I think he gets the run here down towards Ascari. Oh, they're playing a game that's just based on very thin lines there. And it can so easily go wrong. And they're managing to stay afloat. And Bram van Putten back up into second place, Jack.
Yeah, great move by both the drivers. Job de Ligt very, very brave around the outside, even clipped the gravel and kept the car in check. But I wasn't expecting them to stay in the positions they were. But while all this is happening, the leader is now 4.5 seconds up the road. They're almost side by side once again going into Parabolica. As Loosenord now ahead of Rutger Weinen, but Bram van Putten on the inside, Job de Ligt on the outside. It seems to be a carbon copy of, well, every lap prior to this. But Bram van Putten looks like he's got the better run. I say that, but Job de Ligt once again around the outside, going down the start finish straight. It looks like Job de Ligt is a little further ahead than he was on the lap prior. Let's see what he can do going up to turn one, side by side, nothing between them. It looks like Job is just in front. I say that, Bram van Putten then swaps back up into P2. We know Bram's very good on the brakes, although it does look like the car likes to break away from him on turn, and he's kept everything under control this time. Bram van Putten once again retaining his P2 position. Job de Ligt in P3. But while these two are battling, the lead is disappearing into the distance, and the recovering Martin van Loosenord is only going to get closer.
That's very good for Martin van Loosenord indeed. Rutger Weinen is now the passenger down behind there with Ferris Stanley as well. It's been the same way around for quite a bit of time. And Bram van Putten has also been on the chasing end here. And it's perfect for Johnny Verhoef up ahead. As someone noted in chat. Dupanton, of course, Anton Dupin. Noting that it's perfect for Johnny Verhoef up ahead. Because the battle, big time being slowed down by all of this racing. As we all know, racing certainly isn't the fastest way to go around here now. Further down the road, there is a trio of cars within half a second. And this time the suspects are Robin DeVille, Tom Methrel, and Seb Hebera, whom we were gonna go on board with in the 42 SRW esports machine. And into the second Lesmos. A good view of the battle up ahead as well, which is Jack Ashton on the tail of Jeremy Hessels. I feel like that's a battle that's been going on for quite a while as well. And right now Tom Methrel very, very close, but just about too far away to actually make anything happen. And yet again, if we go up ahead, Bram van Putten, oh Jack, they're gonna go for round 4 as we're on lap 17. Still just over an hour left to do here, and certainly nothing being held back. New tactic here. Oh, Job de Ligt with the double cutback. He might have a good enough exit to try and squeeze into the inside here, and he does.
We've seen Job de Ligt try the outside. He's now given the inside a go. We know the inside has worked for Bram van Putten previously, but let's see what he can do this time. Hard on the brakes, going into the second chicane, and Bram van Putten, he's just parked the bus. It seems like, well, you'll have to pardon the pun, bearing in mind the BMW is about the size of a bus, but it doesn't look like you can quite get past him yet. Bram van Putten still retaining P2. Martin van Loosenord very, very close to the tail. That's very brave by Job de Ligt to get round the outside at turn 1. Look how close Martin van Loosenord is now, going into Lesmo 2. On the run down the hill up to Ascari, and look how close this pair or this trio is now. But Martin van Loosenord, I think there's a danger of him dragging Rutger Weinen with him, and Ferry Stanley still in P6, and he's had a great view of this battle up towards Ascari under the bridge, hard on the brakes. I don't quite think he'll get the move done this time, but what Bram van Putten could do is slowly start to disappear into the distance. He's trying to build the gap he can, because if Job de Ligt is driving in his mirrors, he will see Martin van Loosenord, 2 times previous champion, very, very close on the run up to Parabolica. I'm not sure what will happen this time, because obviously this is now a 3-car battle compared to the 2-car battle on the 5 laps prior. Martin van Loosenord very close, and well, if Job de Ligt tries to go to the outside of Bram van Putten, what will Martin van Loosenord do on the run up to the first chicane? Let's see what they can do. That's Bram van Putten in the pits, so a bit of strategy coming into play already, and we said at the start of the season strategy could be the way to play it, and Bram van Putten clearly knows something we don't, because I think he is one of the first cars to dive into the pits for the first of the mandatory pit stops that you've pretty much got to take. That's also Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres, the number 39 Zenith Esports Ferrari, coming into the pits as well. It looks like we've got to that point in the race where pit stops will start to happen. Mario Yori looking to the tail end of Pimbao, once again another G-Drive car. We can't really look away from these G-Drive cars. Hasse, what's going on?
Well, it's all happening around the G-Drive cars at the moment, and it's been... I mean, we saw good racing at Sebring, but this is just another level. And this is just a reminder of what happens when you put really, really good drivers in a really, really competitive situation against the closely matched opposition. You get some fantastic racing out of it. And you could really also see that these drivers, these cars, it's lining up perfectly. Not too much dirty air from the downforce produced from the machines. Still able to run close to the car up ahead. And this is absolutely fantastic stuff, as Joop de Ligt has gotten ahead. And I think we might just have missed it. I'm trying to look through my event viewer to see if I can find anything on it. I actually want to see what happened. Unless I cannot. We're going to have to wait to see more battling from these two. I'm sure this is a gift that's going to keep on giving for even longer than the half hour we've had so far here. The opening half hour of this race has absolutely flown by, and with that the leader, Johnny Verhoef, pitting in, Martin van Loosenhoort and Ferris Stanley, and you can see here Joop de Ligt and Rutger Wijnen, they've been able to save fuel, and we have actually had that mentioned from Configo in chat. Joop is saving fuel. He's not going flat out. And Jack, I'm just going to say something here. If Joop is not going flat out and he's still bringing the heat to the G-Drive cars to such a degree, that's hugely impressive indeed. He might have enjoyed being behind though for a number of laps, being able to just lift and coast a little bit here and there. A lot of stuff happening now with the cars in the pits. We're going to see actually who appears from the pits in what position now. Johnny Verhoef is out. And Bram van Putten, Ferris Stanley is out as well. And then it's all happening in the pit lane at the moment. Alex Torres, of course, coming on a hot lap here. It's going to be behind Ferris Stanley and keeping 7th place. And good stuff from the Spaniard, second of the Ferraris, but separated by 11.5 seconds. So quite a bit of distance between those two actually, and a little bit surprising to see the top drivers just driving away with it to such a degree here. Robin DeVille very close to the rear end of, well, who is that up ahead? That's Tom Methrel, and this is a battle that's been going on as well for quite a while. And he was not too far from... There was Keanu Borgagnon in the Flemish Sim Sports Porsche 911 RSR. Here comes a look and an attempt to make the move, perhaps. No, that was just a big old look from Robin DeVille into what I believe is the chicane known as the Retifilio. Retifilio, isn't it?
Anyway. Don't ask me. It's just chicane 1, chicane 2, and, well, chicane 3. But one thing I did notice is Martin van Loosenhoort is right the way down in P19 at the moment. I was expecting him to come out sort of still in the top 10, but Ferris Stanley now up into P6, so he's pretty much come out of the pits where he went in. The only people he's got in front of him that he'll be racing will be Bram van Putten, Johnny Verhoef, Rutger Wijnen and Joop de Ligt, so he could even be P5 by the end of this lap, because Sebastian Herber is coming to the pits for the Simracersworld BMW. There we go, Ferris Stanley promoted up into P5, made that P4 because Joop de Ligt is in the pits as well now. I forgot Joop de Ligt has still got to pit. But yeah, we've got to that point in the race where everything happens. Well, let's make that P3, shall we? Ferris Stanley up into podium positions.
Joop de Ligt is losing a lot of time here. That could be a penalty. That could be a penalty. And I'm thinking, could the same be the question or the thing for Martin van Loosenhoort? That doesn't look like work being done on the car to me. Of course, we wouldn't see it anyways, and I wouldn't expect him to have to change tires. But that stop took an awful long time, and he's right down the running order as well. And he's going to be surprisingly close to Martin van Loosenhoort, So perhaps that did actually happen for both of the drivers, and that is, well, it was a poor start from Van Doesnord in the 7 car here in the first place. This is indeed Configo confirming the speeding penalty, and I think that's for both of them. So for once, we make prophecies that don't turn out to be wrong immediately here. Johnny Verhoef, though, back in the lead. Bram van Putten, Ferris Stanley, leading gold driver ahead of Rutger Weinen now, up in 3rd place in the Ferrari. So he has done a very good job over the pit stop round of actually getting the better of the Manatee BMW in behind. He's put his Ferrari ahead, and now we're going to see what type of pace he's going to be able to pull off to actually keep the BMW in behind, and that might be a big problem indeed. And it's of course a thing as well that, especially on a high-speed track like this, but generally on more mid-speed tracks or the tracks that has fast straights combined with a slower section or so, still, if you have the car that's top speed strong, it's going to be very hard to overtake. And I think that's something that the BMWs and the drivers of those cars are really enjoying. And I think it's worth also noting that Ferris Stanley and Alex Torres, or if you will, Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres, has both climbed the order quite nicely after the pit stop round. Pimbao now in 6th place. That must be a little bit disappointing, and for a big company there from Mario Jury. So 2nd and 3rd between the gold drivers now, and the Porsches are really moving up the order as well. And that goes for both Ryan Parkins and Keanu Bourguignon. And here is Ryan Parkins. And Jack, what do you think of the all-new Strasse Porsche Sport livery?
I've got to say, I love it. I love all the, or specifically the Porsche Sport livery and the Porsche Sport logos slapped on the side, because obviously I've been commentating on the Porsche Club GB Sim Racing Championship, and Ryan Parkins has been doing an absolutely monster job in that, but he doesn't usually wear the Porsche Sport livery, and well, it seems to work on every car. So it looks beautiful on the 911 GT3 Cup, and it just works on the GTE variant as well, the RSR. But he's doing a mega job for his inaugural race here. Currently in P8 ahead of Sam Bentham in the 4GT. We saw it just behind. Here's Martin van Loosnord. He's attacking Nicolas Cottaniveau for Galactics Motorsport. I don't quite think he'll get the move here, going up into Ascari, hard on the brakes, using all the curb into the first section, being careful here. So Sausage Curbs really will unsettle the car. The second one won't, though. You can see him ride all of it, and maybe a bit of grass there, but he will have the draft assistant. Oh, that's commentator's curse for you. Ryan Parkins and Sam Bentham have had an incident, but we'll stick with this. Martin van Loosnord up the inside, and I think that was possibly Nicolas Cottaniveau pulling out of the move. But just as we start talking about how well Ryan Parkins is doing, and he's got the attentions of Sam Bentham, there is Ryan Parkins on the exit of Parabolica. Let's see what happened on the run up to Parabolica. I'm not sure. That was Ryan Parkins already backwards. So I'm not sure what happened there, whether there was an incident on the way in.
Oh, and he collects!
I think that might be Pimbao.
Oh my word, so Pimbao? Ryan Parkins, let's see, there was several. Oh, here, Ryan Parkins. And that is the car of Pimbao, the number 2 machine. Oh, Jack Ashton! Is that Jack Ashton even? I'm not even sure.
I think that could have been Sam Bentham that got collected in that as well. They're innocent party, both of them. And Ryan Parkins, not really much you could do, bashing it into the wall for good measure. I'm not sure whether he just grabbed the wrong gear. We're now looking at Boland.
But Boland in the first chicane. And that was a little bit messy indeed. And they're all still running. It's nothing too bad, I believe, here. The Manxman now in 20... I'm sorry, he's in the 26th car, of course. He's in 35th position. So not the best day on the office for him here. Ferris Stanley still in 3rd place. And you know what, Jack? He's still having a solid gap. I say a solid gap. It's 0.7 of a second down to Rutger Weinen. But it doesn't seem like the Manatee BMW is just flying into the slipstream up and going for the direct overtake on the Ferrari. So Ferris Stanley able to keep the pace. Able to run here 46.3 on this lap. And I'd expect that because the tires would be getting worn at this point. I wouldn't expect them to have them changed, and not even at any point of this race. Just 2 fuel stops and that's it. And that's my predictions at least, especially because tire wear isn't too much of a thing here at Monza with all the straight bit there.
I was just looking at Ferry Stanley as well, and a couple of laps ago, he was in P5. Look how close Rutger Weinen has got on the brakes there. It looks like the BMW is much stronger on the brakes than the Ferrari is. But Ferry Stanley really doing an amazing job, and I think that cushion that you mentioned earlier, around 0.6 of a second, which has now come down to around 3.5 tenths, I think that's all you need just to have that defensive edge going into the corner from the draft. And you can see the front of that Ferrari like dive into the ground as soon as he hits the brakes, so he's running quite a soft setup, which may be the way to go around here, because obviously you don't want too much downforce, but you don't want it to handle very, very sloppy. So a soft setup does allow for that bit of extra wiggle room. We're now looking at Keanu Borgignon, almost left in a world of his own at the moment. He's pulling away from Sam Bentham, which I'm assuming he might have a bit of damage from that earlier incident, but he's chasing down the G-Drive Eximia car of Pim Bao.
Yeah, and he's eating him up quickly. That's going to be munched, I think, when we come up to the start-finish line at the end of the Parabolica here. It's going to be munch time, if not even before, for Keanu Borgignon, who's kept it very clean. That car is crispy indeed. And the same cannot be said for the BMW of Pim Bao, and you can really see that the advantage of the BMW not enough to really transcend every kind of aerodynamic damage here. Where is Bart Dalemans? That's a good question. I'm having a look down the order. He is in P24 at the moment. And that's where he started. Oh, and that's a bit of a cursed moment there as he picks up the sausage curb through a Scari. And Jack, that's a thing you don't want to do too often, isn't it?
It is. I did say those sausage curbs can be quite deadly if you hit them at the wrong angle, and I think that's just the way that it happened. Pim Bao now defending very, very hard from Keanu Borgignon. Jink one way, jink the other, and it looks like he might get the run around the outside. We know the Porsche is very good in the corners, but the BMW is good on the brakes. They get very close. Great driving between the pair of them. I don't think there's a bit of contact, and look how much time Pim Bao has lost now. So he's lost a position and lost around 0.7 of a second as well. So Pim Bao now falling into the clutches of Sam Bentham for Ronin Simsport Academy. Nicholas Last and Martin van Loosnord very, very close. Martin van Loosnord looking to make up the position, and Nicholas Last has lost a lot of time from that as well. And he is very, very close to the tail end of Seb Herber. Seb Herber has got in front as well now. So just a couple of positions back for P14, 15 and 16. Very, very close between the three of them. Now looking at Robin de Ville and Tom Methrel. There we go. Martin van Loosnord now really building that gap between the two. Seb Herber has picked up a position, and Nicholas Last has lost 2 positions in the space of around 3 corners.
That's a very good point there. And some of the real top runners that we saw very quick in qualifying. Bad luck, a little bit of contact there early days, and just when you lose those 3, 4, 5 kilometers an hour on top speed, it really hurts the race pace of the car. And these are drivers that we'd expect to be so far up the order. They're really struggling here. Nicholas Last trying his best to actually make back some of these positions, but he's in 16th place. Martin van Loosnord yet again with it all to do after gaining so many positions after starting on pole, then finding himself in 6th, 7th place at the end of lap 1. He gained back almost all those places to put himself back into lead contention, and then we assume he picked up a speeding penalty because he was quite far down the running order all of a sudden. Here Nicholas Last with an easy pass, not really too contended here on the entrance to the Parabolica. Neil Cooper, P34 indeed, he's at the heavy end of affairs as well. Let's have a look. The Brit. Oh, that's a Fury Simsport 911 RSR that I don't really recall having seen before, but it's certainly working for me. Black and green, black and acid green, if you will, or like a strong light Intel Nvidia green. There it is. Not Intel, but of course it's Nvidia green, because it's very Nvidia-esque. But it's I like it. It works for me, this livery, and something that we always hope that we have. I guess we hope that we won't have time to speak about the liveries in the end, Jack, because if we don't have time to speak about liveries, it means the racing is real good. Here's Seb Herber in the SRW Esports BMW still holding on. He's now defending from Joop de Ligt, and Joop de Ligt has it all to do just like Martin van Loosnord. He's gone from running at the very head to quite a bit of weight down the midfield here. Now in 17th place, he's going to make that 16th up towards Ascari, I think. And it's going to be incredible if Seb Hebera can actually defend this one. And also very brave. And that's not happening. And so it is Job de Dijk now up into 16th position. Chasing down Niklas last. Mind you, all of these drivers was in the top 5. Second and third on the grid, actually, if I don't recall completely correctly. Up at the head of affairs, though, is still Johnny Verhoeven, Bram van Putten, now Rutger Wijnen as well. He's gotten passed on Ferris Stanley, although he's not left the Monegasque behind. And the Ferrari is still in there as well. Then it's Alex Torres in 5th place. A little bit away back there, but it's looking very good for the Spaniard. Mario Yuri, Keanu Borgignon has gotten past there. I think that might just have been a little bit of a problem there for Sam Bentham. Because I think he just lost a few positions. Or was. Oh, that was actually good enough. It was a bit of a misattempted attack there into turn 1. He was never going to get the better of Pim Bao with such a move, but he was looking at it on the outside though. And just as I say, with that move, it wasn't going to be, but look at this one. Into the second chicane, they come under the bridge that usually marks just around where the braking zone is. And Sam Bentham, very well done there in the 89 car. Let's put him up into 8th place, certainly utilizing the Ford GT well at the moment.
He's doing a good job, obviously. He is the highest rated 4G, or the highest placed 4GT currently on the road. And he's also P3 in class. We're now looking at Tom Methrel, really in a BMW sandwich at the moment. 5 BMWs make that 6 BMWs from P11 all the way down to P17. So Jeremy Hessel's leading Martin van Loosnoord, obviously on a great recovery drive, but now only 4 tenths by picking up another position. We're now looking at Robin de Ville as well, Tom Methrel, Nicholas Last, and Job de Ligt and Seb Herbert all in BMWs, looking back from Jeremy Hessel's. And I think he might have lost a bit of time there, Martin van Loosnoord, because he's dropped back a little bit. It might me just be reading the timing screen wrong, but Martin van Loosnoord leading Robin de Ville, Tom Methrel, Nicholas Last and Job de Ligt, all within 2 seconds from Martin van Loosnoord and Job de Ligt. So 4 cars separated by not a massive margin, and Job de Ligt will be on the charge as well, because he's got to make up the same amount of time as Martin van Loosnoord, if not more as well, because both of them had speeding penalties, and Martin van Loosnoord seems to have made his escape slightly better than Job de Ligt. So G-Drive getting the better of Manatee Racing in the midfield, but it's a very different story at the sharp end of affairs. Johnny Verhoeven still leading the way by around a 2-second margin. Then we go back to Bram van Putten, and he's 8 seconds ahead of Rutger Wijnen. We'll have a look back at an overtake here. This is Daniel Handover, almost 3 wide there. Daniel Handover looked to the outside of the Quantum Racing car of John Barnes. Does he get the move done? Yes, he does. Sweeps all the way around the outside. Textbook move from Daniel Handover. John Barnes losing out there, and Ewan Marshall will have a great view of that. We've had an incident for Nicholas Last, so we'll have to have a look back just to see what happened. Let's see what you make of it, Hasse.
And let's see here, that's the second chicane. Oh, just touches the rear corner of one of the other BMWs. He's lucky, I think, not to, it's the left corner, of course. The left rear corner of one of those other BMWs of Tom Methrel, indeed, I think, and that sent him spinning. He'll be happy not to have touched the barrier in that situation, because that could easily have been even more damage for him. So Nicholas Last certainly not with the best day on the office here for his sake. And a freebie for some of the other drivers in that battle. That's also including Job de Ligt, now up into 15th place. And he's not at all going to be happy with that. He's going to be busy trying to get up through here. We've passed the halfway point of the race, by the way. And time is flying, they say, when you're having a good time. And that's certainly what we're having here tonight. I hope you guys out there are enjoying the show as well. Here is Jack Ashton, now defending from Jeremy Hessel's. The Ford GT certainly seems to have better race pace than qualifying pace here. And I think for the first time this season, Jack Ashton finding himself in a decent situation.
I think he is as well, but somebody trying to make amends for a dire situation is Ryan Parkins at the moment. He's within half a second of the recovering Nicholas Last, so both the BMW and the Porsche driver down in P18 and 19 trying to make amends for a prior incident. But Ryan Parkins for Strasser Porsche Sport, he's done a great job at the start of the race, got caught out by a rogue Pim Bao in the middle of the Parabolica corner. but Ryan Parkin's now very, very close to the tail end of Nicholas Last, and at this stage of the race, look at that time he's just lost there. Nicholas Last getting the better run of the two, going through the second chicane, through Lesmo 1. How does the Porsche navigate this? Ryan Parkin's doing a great job, but I don't think it'll be enough, and he's very, very close to losing out on that valuable draft, and he's very close to falling into the grasp of Sebastian Hawkins behind for Abruzzi Esports.
Yeah, that's very true. And meanwhile, up ahead here into Ascari goes Tom Methrel, still under pressure from Joop de Leek. And still some of the closest cars on track now, but there's a little bit of a spread between that five-way BMW battle there. And I think at the same time, Jeremy Hessels is now being caught up to by Martin van Loosnoord here, as Joop de Leek is having a big old look up the inside of Tom Methrel, who isn't having any of it here. Around the Parabolica we go, and it's not the first time we've seen the outside line. You can get earlier on the throttle, but I don't think that's the fate here for Tom Methrel. They're going to be fighting it out all the way down to the first chicane, and they are still pretty much neck and neck. Oh, that's a bit of an advantage there for the Manatee Racing BMW. And I think it's going to be position gained up into 14th for Joop de Leek. But still a lot of making up to do here for him. Here's Jeremy Hessels now indeed with Martin van Loosnoord, who's up into 12th place. Has certainly also been gaining a lot, and that looks like another position gain in not too long. If he can find his way through the Dynamics racing car of Jeremy Hessels as they go under the bridge. And one thing that's really, really nice with one of the recent iRacing updates, I think I mentioned upon it as well before, but the camera shake when you have the cars passing close to the camera, that is such a cool feature, and it really adds to the immersion of viewing, of watching races, and especially when broadcasting here. Keanu Borgignon, that's a very, very good point, Hendrik. He is up into 7th place. He's gained 12 places, Jack.
Yeah, it's a great job from Keanu Borgignon. I'm not quite sure how he's done it, but we knew he was the highest placed Porsche for a little while, and he's only gone and extended his gap. The next target of him is almost 8.5 seconds up the road. That's Mario Iori. So Keanu Borgignon trapped behind two gold drivers at the moment of Ferry Stanley, and he's sort of fallen into the shadows as Ferry Stanley, because we said he was slowly starting to lose that time from Rutger Weinen, but if we have a look back up to them, they are very, very close indeed. Only half between them.
Who was that? Was that Jack Ashton? Or was it Lee Deemer? I'm afraid it was Lee Deemer in the Excite Racing 68 machine. The Ford GT just losing the rear end. Oh, and it's in the second part of the Parabolica, but he chooses to tow it, and I understand that because it would have been a very, very dangerous position to be in anyways. Here, Joop de Leek goes up the inside, and that's on Robin DeVille. And he's up into 13th place. He really made that happen quickly indeed. I think that was pretty much first chance. And he just grabbed it. Oh, they almost touched each other there into the braking zone as the first chicane. But managed to keep and stay off of one another's sides. There, not too much paint being traded. And Joop de Leek is trying to get back up into the top 10 right now. He's doing a storming job. Same goes for Martin van Loosnoord. Is really treating us with some good moves as they're making their way up through the field. So we're now into the 30th lap of racing, of course, the 35th minute of racing here. This hour and a half race. And I gotta say, Jack, I think this hour and a half kind of format fits it perfectly. It's long enough for the race to really have several phases. It's long enough for tactical and strategical battles to actually play out, and yet it's short enough that we still get this sprint race kind of feeling, and drivers going for the absolute balls to the wall from the first lap.
Yeah, I really do agree with you there. 90-minute race is normally classed as that sort of swappable margin between a sprint and an endurance race, but obviously there's the 60% fuel load, which breaks up the stints a lot for these drivers, which I think does give it the sprint race feel. Here's Martin van Loosnoord up the inside of Jack Ashton for Team Fordzilla, and there you go, another position gained for Martin van Loosnoord. So it seems like he's keeping a keen eye on what Joop de Leek is doing, because those two were very, very close towards the start of the race. Let's see what Jack Ashton can do on the run up to the first chicane. I don't think he'll get it done on the way into turn 1 or 2. We'll keep an eye on these two going around Curva Grande and into the second chicane. There's Keanu Borgignon under pressure from Sam Bentham. But going back to Martin van Loosnord and Joop de Ligt, as soon as Joop de Ligt gains a position, it seems like Martin van Loosnord gains one as well. So keeping a keen eye on those two will be the way forward, I think, for the closing 35 minutes of the race.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a thing about just watching how far back up the order they're actually gonna come. And we need to have a look here at the leaders, because it's been a very long time since we had any kind of look here. Johnny Verhoeven has been impeccable so far. The 93 car has driven a perfect race, at least for the first 55 minutes of it here. And with just about 35 minutes to go, it's looking very good. We're getting closer to the second round of pit stop. At least we are anticipating it within 5 minutes time. Of course, all the drivers would be happy, I think, to make it into the final hour, just so they're completely sure that they're well fueled and able to go the distance. Bram van Putten still second. And he's gotten a good bit of cushion here down to Rutger Wijnen. And you know what Rutger Wijnen hasn't got? That's any kind of cushion down to Ferris Stanley. The Monegasque still right on the tail in that Ferrari. And he's seeming to get something out of the Ferrari that only really Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres is able to find. Because the next Ferrari is a long way down the running order. That's the car of Seb Hawkins. Currently in 20th place. And I'm sorry, that of course not... Oh yeah, it is, of course, the Abruzzi Ferrari. I was looking at the damage to the car of Ryan Parkins there. The beautiful Strasse Porsche Sport 911 RSR. And John Tusting, another one of the newcomers to the series, has had an incident going too wide. I don't think that was... the worst of incidents. Oh, and Ferris Stanley. Is that just the same kind of small off track here on the exit of... yeah, it is. Just want to make sure here that Ferris Stanley doesn't get into any kind of trouble here. Of course, it is going to cost him a bit of time, and it is going to allow... Or perhaps it's going to allow Rutger Wijnen to just start edging away here. Martin van Loosnord getting on the tail of Pimbau, his teammate. And look at that, Pimbau just moving straight over. Say, I'm gonna have no part in fighting you. Because Martin van Loosnord, under the bridge they go, slightly up the hill and into the braking zone, and he's ahead. Now up into 9th place. Jack Ashton in 11th, and I'm just thinking that Joop de Ligt is also making moves here. This is Martin van Loosnord, so this is not what we're trying to watch. Here is the situation from before with Joop de Ligt. And who is that?
Jeremy Hessels, I believe.
That's Jeremy Hessels, of course, here on the... I think it's the 88 Dynamics eSports car. Oh, it is a good move as well. He's also still making up places here. As you can see there on the lap times, Martin van Loosnord a 1:46.1 on his final lap. Keanu Borgagnon a whole second behind. Sam Bentham not a lot better for him in the situation. So Martin van Loosnord, huge pace at the moment. And I think it's the same sort of situation here for Joop de Ligt, who certainly seems to have the pace advantage, making back places here. But it's been a edgy couple of moments here as Pimbau is now having to defend from Jack Ashton. And the defending champ has a big run indeed here down towards the second chicane. He's going to send it. That's a big old look, and they're side by side. And I don't think there's any defending that. Certainly not. And the number 2 car has to cede to the number 1. And Jack Ashton takes the place of Pimbau in the top 10. And he's back into the top 10, actually. A good recovery drive from Ashton as well, who's been a bit away down the running order here. Keanu Borgagnon now with Martin van Loosnord for more than close company. Because for a moment it looked like those two cars were almost glued together here down towards the Ascari. We've seen Van Loosnord make several passes here. He seems to be so strong on the exit from the second Lesmo. And no one's really able to handle the straight line speed of the BMW combined with someone getting a really strong run there. And up ahead, Sam Bentham now might be finding himself just another victim as well of Van Loosnord's here. Because he's absolutely flying at the moment. On board we are here with the 89 machine. Down towards the Parabolica. It's not going to be this time around, but look for the exit. He knows this track so well, Van Loosnord. He knows just how to handle these situations. And to put himself in a good position to move up and to claim the points in the end anyways. And what he would not like to have happening for him, of course, is to have a lot of drivers saving fuel around him, and then him maybe losing 4 or 5 seconds on the next pit stop round, and that would certainly put him in a poor position as well. So fingers crossed for Van Doosnoot in that regard. Of course, for us, if it happens, it's just going to mean more action. So with all due respect, do lose a few positions if that's the case, of course. Just joking. Oh, Ryan Parkins went past someone. I think someone might have had a problem here. Oh, he's just getting passed by the Abruzzi car of Seb Hawkins, I think that was. Indeed. Seb Hawkins. Good move there. First chicane. Niklas Lasjak is in 16th place. He's dropped 14 places from the start of this race, and he's really not enjoying this one, is he?
No, he isn't. Like you say, the 99 car right the way down in P16, and he's been trying to work his way up ever since, but it doesn't seem to be working for him at the moment. He's got Seb Herbert just behind him, followed by Nicolas Cottaniveau for probably one of my favourite liveries out on circuit, the Galactics Motorsport car. I knew we'd fit it in at some point, and then it's been mentioned in chat, we've got a great battle going on behind. Although the cars might not be as close as they have been prior to this, but Sebastian Hawkins for Abruzzi Esports is just about defending from Ryan Parkins. But look at this, Jack Ashton. Oh, he was having a think about defending his 10th position from Job de Ligt, but Job not deciding to go for the move here. But we know how strong Job is out of Parabolica. Let's see what he can do on the run up towards turns 1 and 2. He's in the draft, and we know how strong the BMW is in the draft, but look how big it is compared to the Ford. So the Ford looks a little more streamlined, but Jack Ashton going for possibly the unpopular opinion of going around the outside. Now he's just making room for Pimbao coming back out of the pit lane, but that does mean Jack Ashton has, well, in theory lost a position, but gained one as well, because Job de Ligt is now in front. Jack Ashton is now in P9, and Bram van Putten, pardon me, is now out in P10.
P10, but virtually second. He was early to stop. Let's see how standings are when we've had everyone in for the second pit stop. It's not going to be a run to the line for Bram van Putten, which is going to be nice to have the stopping done and over with. Of course, not so nice for him to have done a lap less. Oh, what's that? What's that? That's Job de Ligt going slowly, and I wonder if he just picked up some kind of slowdown, perhaps? Because I'd be very surprised to see just why he was going so slowly here. You can see with Jack Ashton passing him, that might tell us a little bit more. He pulls off. That looks like a slowdown penalty to me. Bram van Putten is also a bit up against it here today, and that goes for several of the top runners from the opening round at Sebring. And we've had quite a bit of a shake-up here. And Johnny Verhoef up ahead, really looking good. Rutger Wijnen still has Ferris Stanley for company. The gap is still underneath, or just about a second. It's actually just over a second now. And then the trio here of Jack Ashton, Bram van Putten, and Job de Ligt. Very close indeed. Jack Ashton getting a bit of a flash there from Van Putten, and you're gonna have to wonder what that is all about, Jack. Does he give the position?
Yeah, Bram van Putten it round the outside, and he's managed to get it done. He's now got past Jack Ashton, and I think this will really make a difference for him, because obviously Job de Ligt for Manatee Racing might have had the idea of slowing down Bram van Putten just to let his Manatee teammates at the front end of the field just to disappear into the distance. Johnny Verhoef still leading overall with a 14.5 second gap, but a battle I've been keeping an eye on the timing screens is between Sebastian Hawkins, Ryan Parkins, and I think Bart Dalman will be in the mix, and that's quite an interesting little battle, because there's an Abruzzi Esports car, a Strasser Porsche Sport car, and a Simracersworld Esports car, and of which, well, 3 of those are sponsors, and one of them is in theory the broadcaster. So Dynamic Simulator, we're just going to run you through the sponsors. Dynamic Simulators, Porsche Sport, Strasser and Abruzzi. Obviously a massive thank you to those guys for making this happen. We really wouldn't be able to do it without you. And it was mentioned in chat that an Abruzzi Esports car and a Strasser Porsche Sport car, what can go wrong? Well, someone came along and said a Simracersworld car could take him out, and I hope that's not on the agenda for Bart Dalman behind. But it's quite interesting just to see that, a battle between 3 cars and 3 sponsors are well, battling away with only 25 minutes of the race to go, and he's not even towards the pointy end of the field. It's mid-pack, and I think that's great to see, especially when you look at it as well, because Sebastian Hawkins is a gold driver. So there's 2 gold drivers and a platinum driver battling toe-to-toe, or well over halfway through the race, going into the closing stages, inter-class, inter-car, and it's just a great little battle.
Indeed, it is, and all we need was one of the Dynamics cars to be close enough behind to be picked up in the wreckage, and they'd all be out in one big incident there as well. Bram van Putten now getting up back to 3rd place there. Rutger Weinen, I think, has been the one to go deep, or go long, if you will, on this pit round. And remember, he was battling Ferris Stanley, who's 5th at the moment. We've not had Job de Ligt pitting so far as well. And it's interesting to see what kind of gains could be made here from Rutger Weinen. I think he's done 2 more laps, actually, than Ferris Stanley. And if that's the case, he could be looking at a 2nd or 2 less in the pit in terms of fuel. Actually, even more, perhaps. That's going to be pretty interesting to follow as they come in here. I'm expecting both Rutger Weinen and Job de Ligt, who's now currently in 4th place. There he is, exiting the first, no, I'm sorry, that's the 2nd Lesmo. With one of the Simpac 911s on chase, but they're of course lap times or lap times, so they're all putting in lap times, but they're lap cars at this part of the race. They haven't had a good time at all in the RSRs. So let's see here, Rutger Weinen, you know what, he's still running, Jack.
He is indeed. He's I'm not quite sure how he's doing it. So he's only on 1 pit stop, and he seems to be going much farther than anybody else at this stage in the race. So whether he has just been fuel saving behind a back marker, or he's just been very, very conservative with that buffer, and just lifting and coasting into corners, maybe being slightly less aggressive on the car. Keanu Bourguignon very close to, I think that was Jack Ashton. But Jack Ashton, I've got to say, I think he got his nose cut off by Keanu there. I'm not quite sure. We might be able to see whether we can get that from another angle, but Keanu Bourguignon spinning his car through 360 degrees and comes out just in front of his teammate of Robert Nabil, and just behind the Meraki racing car of Tom Metal. Let's see what happened again. And it looks like Keanu Bourguignon didn't really leave much racing room for Jack Ashton, but it's not exactly a tight and twisted section that you want to go too wide through. We've seen people make it work, but you've got to be quite brave. One of the year 1 Ferraris getting out of the way very nicely for everybody. That is Dean Timms, being very respectful. Job de Ligt in the pit lane, and he's sat still for quite a while once again. There we go, just as I mentioned it. He's leaving the pits. Martin van Leeuwenhoek now back in front of Job de Ligt. Here is our leader, Rutger Weinen. Now, he's gained 6 positions from where he started, ahead of his Manatee teammate of Johnny Verhoeven. So let's see whether he goes into the pit lane this time. If he doesn't, I'm not quite sure how he's done it, because he has been out for a very, very, very long time. And with 20 minutes of the race to go, this really isn't the point where you want to make a mistake with strategy. So let's see what he does. Going round Parabolica, he's taking the very inside line. Let's see whether he grabs the pit limiter, hard on the brakes, grabs the pit limiter, gets it slowed down before the cones, and going in for the 2nd of his 2 mandatory pit stops. Johnny Verhoeven is 26 seconds down the road, and I'm assuming he will re-inherit the lead, but Bram van Putten will stay in P2, and if Ferris Stanley plays his cards right this late in the race, he is looking for not just a class podium, but an overall podium once again.
Indeed he is, and you know what, we also just noted Johnny Verhoeven, 7.3 seconds, he kept that gap alive for more or less the entirety of the race. Now Rutger Weinen, he was having a battle with Ferris Stanley when they were going at it before. He's still in the pit lane. And Ferris Stanley is exiting the Parabolica now, so what's it gonna be here? Rutger Weinen's exiting, and I think the Monegasque might just get the better of him in the Ferrari, and he does! And Ferris Stanley, the gold driver, the top running Ferrari, the top running gold driver of course as well, he's up into 3rd place. And that's absolutely amazing. And you know what? I am not quite sure that it's actually been paying off for Rutger Weinen going this deep, because he's 4 whole seconds off of Ferris Stanley, and that's not an optimal position to be in. He's 20 seconds clear of Mario Jury though, and can I just say, Mario Jury, you're in the Sim Racing Academy number 252 car, he's done a brilliant job as well. He's gone up 9 places, and he's gotten the better of Alex Torres over this pit stop round. And those two now got the final 20 minutes of the race to battle it out with one another here. Joop de Ligt, I think, is right on the tail of Sam Bentham here. And that is coming into the Curva Grande. So if he's got the run on the Ford GT up ahead, he might actually be looking at a move here already into the second chicane, but I don't think it's going to be close enough. Although we have seen the BMWs, as Jack has mentioned, on multiple occasions, strong under the braking zones, and then I'm not quite sure that he actually gets close enough there. But it's certainly going to be one to watch here as two cars come flying through there. That's Pim Bao and Jack Ashton. It's amazing to see how they use so much of the curb there on the inside of the second part of the second chicane. Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres, +6 namer, and he is a wonderful driver indeed. None of the many namer bad jokes, memes, things really come to play with this guy. He has been a dream to watch so far, and one of the drivers to really just keep it clean and to take advantage, slowly picking his way up through the field. And now it's Mario Yuri up ahead, and I think that he's actually had the better of the better pace of the two so far, at least in qualifying and so far in the race ahead. By the way, Jack, Martin van Loosenoord in 7th place. Let's see what kind of lap time he's putting in at this point compared to the cars ahead. 1:45.8. So he's almost a second up on the cars he's chasing, and certainly there's potential because the gap up ahead for Martin is just 5 seconds, and Joop de Ligt is in 8th place now. He's gotten past on Sam Bentham. Pim Bao is 10th, and that of course rounds off the top 10 with Ashton, Hessels, Bourguignon, Methril, and Robin DeVille down to 15th place. He's lost a bit as well. And I feel like we say this every time, Jack, because the racing tends to be pretty good here on SRW TV, but this time, yet again, time really has flown by.
It really has, and we've only got, what, 18 minutes of the race remaining, and I don't think we're going to be short of action for all of it. Once again, a Meraki car is the meat in a Flemish Sim Sport sandwich, so Robert DeVille still at the tail end of that battle, and Keanu Bourguignon once again leading this battle. And I've just seen Ferry Stanley is now up into P2 overall. It says P1 overall, that can't be right. I'm assuming this is my timing screen once again, deciding what it wants to do with itself. But Keanu Bourguignon still leading Tom Methril for Meraki Racing, followed by Robin DeVille for Flemish Sim Sports, and Sebastian Herber has worked his way up into P16. And I've got a feeling, Hasse, that my timing is just messing around, but could you please check, is Bram van Putten still in P3, or has he dropped down, as to what my timing screen is saying, down to P7?
No, Bram van Putten on my screen is 2nd. We have Jennifer Hove, Bram van Putten, Sverre Stanley, and Rutger Wijnen. There's the top 4, Mario Jury 5th. Alex Torres 6th, and then Martin van Loosenoord. So I think it's luckily just your timing screen that's playing tricks on you. More lap times coming in here. Joop de Ligt 1:46.5. So he seems to be a bit off the pace of Van Loosenoord, at least here in this very moment, because the last lap of Van Loosenoord at 46.0. Yeah, that's half a second off. Robin DeVille with a panoramic view of the four-way it is actually that he's a part of. 3 cars in front of him. He gets a very good run there on Tom Methril, but he's not going to be able to make it into anything. And that's actually a thing here at Monza. It's so easy to get tempted to just throw the car into the corner, and you're going to bleed down all the way to the next one indeed, as Robin DeVille finds out here. So he's coming down towards the second chicane. So often braking a little bit earlier and in turn being able to get on the throttle that little bit earlier is the fastest way to get around here. And in some cars, for some drivers, that can feel very counterintuitive, especially if you try to push, because it just makes it even more difficult. Failing to mention Tom Methril in a Belgian sandwich. So wondering if that sandwich consists of triple, fritten, and perhaps chocolate.
I'm just going to agree with you because I only know what one of those is. But
triple, that's beer. But that's a kind of like I don't actually remember what makes the double and the triple. I guess it's kind of how many times the beer goes through some kind of process. I like the beer more than I know about it, as you can probably hear. Fritten, Flamse fritten, that's Flemish fries. So that's not French fries, but French fries, but it's not from France, it's actually Belgium. So there you have it. And chocolate.
Yeah, look how close the print of this battle is though. Jeremy Hessel's very, very close to deciding what he's going to do. Defending very, very hard from Keanu Bourguignon. Keanu looks to the outside. Can he get the cut back into turn 1, turn 2? We'll have another look again. But they seem to be in sort of an accordion sort of fashion at the moment, because Jeremy Hessel's, he gets very, very, he gets under a lot of pressure from Keanu Bourguignon, and then he stretches his legs a little bit here, 0.5 of a second between the pair of them. And then once again we'll go into a part of the track which is maybe slightly more twisty than the tail end, and look how close the Porsche is on the brakes. I know the BMWs are good on the brakes, but it looks like the Porsche of Keanu Bourguignon is quite confident going into Les Mo 1. He has a little look on the exit, pulls back into the draft, but they seem to get closer, further away, closer, further away, and that just seems to be the way this entire race is going for any battle that's ever developed.
Hendrik, that's very much true. It's what beer does to commentators. Makes this all the more interesting to listen to in the end. Or perhaps interesting, perhaps entertaining is a better word to use here, as we're on board with the chopper. Is that the chopper? Is that the blimp? Or is that the chopper blimp kind of in between thing? Not quite sure here. Outside we are of the Parabolica, one of the most iconic corners in all of racing as well. And Monza, the Temple of Speed, of course. A bit of a fake there from Mario Jury to try to break the toe of Alex Torres. But Monza, the old oval, of course, something very, very special indeed, and something you don't get the chance to drive in many sims. I know there's a version in Assetto Corsa. Check, is there a version in iRacing that contains the old oval as well?
Yes, I do think there is. I was watching some iRacing stream highlights, as I usually do, and I did think I saw NASCAR's racing on the oval, but the oval isn't where the action's at today, going into turns 4 and 5. Mario Yuri under a hell of a lot of pressure from Alejandro Torres for Zenith Esports. He had a look, but couldn't quite pull the move off into Les Mo 1, and look how much time Alejandro has lost here in the Ferrari. It just seems that if you go for the move, if you don't pull it off once, you're going to lose a lot of time. This is Keanu Bourguignon once again looking into turn 1, dives to the outside. I think this was the battle we saw on the lap prior. No, it wasn't. Look at this. Keanu Bourguignon does have a bigger look there. Look how close Tom Methrel was to the tail end. Whoa, that's Tom Fuller having an issue. He's pulled over to the right hand side of the road, slammed on the brakes and returned to the garage. I'm not quite sure what's happened to David Fuller. He's got back out though, so...
Oh, here's the incident.
Oh,
just touched the wall, and I'm afraid that's going to be enough. That car looks hurt. Oh, and is that Niklas Last? Or is that one of the Dynamics BMWs? Who's absolutely sending it there. That's going to be a tow for David Fuller. That's very bad luck at this late stage of the race. Mario Jury now still having to defend from Alex Torres here as we are back. Alejandro. Well, it says Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres, which is the man's full name. Then when you look to short name, as to if we were to use a shortening of his names, it says Alex Torres, which just leads me to believe that the man would be perfectly happy with us using both. And that just goes to say, sometimes you have the time to say Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres. At other times, you just need something that goes down a little bit quicker. Something like fast food, you know? Sometimes you don't have time to cook. It's fine, you go grab a durum or a kebab or... That's the same. But that says a little bit about what we get here in Copenhagen anyways. You get the point. You get the picture. I think no more explanation needed for that one. And look at this! Look at this! 4-5-way battle. Who's that on the outside? That's one of the Fortzilla GTs. And this is all getting so close. And it's now a double-layered Belgian or Flemish Simsports sandwich here for both Tom Methrel. And I think that's indeed Jeremy Hessel's in front now. So Keanu Bourguignon, who we saw behind, he's gotten past on Jeremy Hessel's there, and now Tom Methrel is very close. Robin DeVille in a good position. Oh, that might not be a good exit there for Keanu Bourguignon, because I saw him just edge to the other side, and he's going defensive early here as well. Is it going to be enough to open the door for Jeremy Hessels? No, but he gets a bit of a slide on. That's not a good exit. And yet again, I think we might see the BMW of Hessels gain all the way down to the Parabolica.
Keanu Bourguignon will have to do a hell of a lot here into Parabolica to defend the position. He puts the car on the inside, so you won't get the run on the way in, but we know how strong the BMW is on the exit. Going round Parabolica, he has a little look to the inside. Does Jeremy Hessels very, very close. Definitely under the rear wing of the Flemish Simsports Porsche. He dives to the inside, so he's got the inside for turn one pretty much secure. Tom Methel's following him. So let's see what he can do in the draft. Here's Tom Methel riding on board with him now. A great view of the side-by-side action we've got going in front. He can't decide which car to follow. Pulls out of the move, lifts off nice and early just to see what can happen. And if Keanu Bourguignon can keep this position, it'll be absolutely amazing defending. But he falls foul of Jeremy Hessels. And now look how close Tom Methel is. A massive slide on corner exit from Keanu Bourguignon in just pure desperation to get the car out of the corner to save losing another position. But Tom Methel, he looks to the outside, pulls back into the draft just to get that tiny bit of overspeed. I'm guessing he might have another look going into turns 4 and 5. He looks to the inside, has a little look, but he's now prevented himself from getting the attack on Keanu Bourguignon, and he's falling into the clutches of Robin Deville. So he's trying to get past the Flemish Simsports car while trying to defend from a Flemish Simsports car.
That's all happening in this four-way battle here. Brilliant action at the moment. Gonna just make a shout out to Martin van Rooijk. He's here on track somewhere, the Simpack driver, because he is the man who's behind the camera packs that we're using. And I think some of the cam angles that we have, the one under the bridge there, I think he made that, but at least he did make the onboard camera packs for the cars that are very nice indeed. Just a few seconds ago we were enjoying the Wang cam, something that I have a lot of history with, and I do enjoy those shots where you get a bit of the car and a whole lot of the surroundings. So thanks a lot to Martin on his brilliant work. Martin is of course also the livery designer for Simpact. Yet again, as they come under the bridge and they're actually battling here. So he's gonna have to defend from Niklas Last. He's found himself some pacey opposition down the field. Van Rooijk 31st, Niklas Last in 32nd position. So luck hasn't been turning to the better side here. We'll go back up to the battle here as they're 3 wide into the first chicane. And how they managed to make that stick without all hitting each other, I have absolutely no clue. That was absolutely brilliant, and we will have another look. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. 3 wide they go. Oh my word, Jack, I was about to say I'm lost for words, as you can probably hear. That's not entirely true, but that was some amazing action right there.
It really was. Keanu Bourguignon once again sliding the car on the exit, but he's managed to get the position. No, he hasn't, because look, he's now in front of him, Jeremy Hessels. I say that, gets a bad run out of the corner. Jeremy Hessels cuts across the track to do everything he can to defend from Keanu Bourguignon. Keanu's now on the inside, side by side, going through Lesmo 1. This is absolutely brilliant battling. No contact between them, nice and close. I say that, no, that's Jeremy Hessels spinning Keanu Bourguignon round. That really isn't what we wanted to see. That was immediate commentator's curse. I am sorry. But Keanu Bourguignon getting spun around by Jeremy Hessels. It looks like he came over a little bit, to be fair, but the Flemish Simsports car goes backwards into the gravel. And it looks like the person that made the most out of that was possibly Tom Methel, because he's now leading that battle from Jeremy Hessels, and Robin Deville had the best seats in the house for all of that. So let's have another look. Keanu Bourguignon got very close. I think he almost did come across a big bounce between the pair of them, and there's nothing much that Jeremy Hessels can do there. Keanu Bourguignon slams on the brakes, trying to get it slowed down before the gravel. It's not going to happen. He keeps out of the wall though, and he's continued going on, but that really isn't what we're looking for. P14 to P17, and not what we wanted to see at all, Hasse.
Not at all there, but look at Martin van Loosnoot, who's now past Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres. Let's put the Spaniard down into 7th place. And it's put Martin van Loosnoot, our pole sitter for today, our double champion of this series. He's a man on an absolute mission. And he's now, I would not have believed that if you told me that 5 minutes before the race and De La Mata Torres goes around. No! Exiting the second chicane, he Häkkinen's it. Oh, but he keeps the engine running and he won't be there to cry by the side of the track afterwards. Hopefully he's not running with a fever either, so it's not all Mika-esque for him, but he's lost time, valuable time. We're gonna go back to Martin van Loosnort because he's got the run yet again up to Ascari, and I think Mario Jury knows that that's game over for now. Martin van Loosnort who goes deep though into Ascari, and that might open the door for the Austrian on the tail. Look at that here, very wide onto the back straight. And indeed, such a pity that we didn't get to see a clean end to the battle there. Of course, that was far from intentional. Just so the consequence of what happens when you have such close racing for so long. But once in a while, it just goes wrong here. Martin van Loosnort seems to actually defend that position. We're going to go back with that battle because it's still close here between Jeremy Hessels, who might be carrying a little bit of damage there. He lost the position to Tom Methrel. And now Robin DeVille. He's got the teammate of the car he hit just a few moments ago right behind. Of course, we're gonna try to keep it as clean as humanly possible, but that was very, very, very bad luck indeed before. And whatever it was, we didn't really want to see it here. Now Jack Ashton is being attacked by Pim Bao, and that's for 10th place. And I think Jack Ashton's gonna have his luck defending that position for now at least. But look at Pim Bao looking for the exit here. Gets a good run out of that chicane. And then the question is, what's it gonna be when they pass underneath the bridge? Nothing crazy, hopefully this time. Certainly doesn't look like it, but he's close enough that it's action. And look at this now. I think they're going to be side by side further down here. That's Jeremy Hessels and Tom Methrel. Tom Methrel having to defend, I think, pretty hard. But he managed to do so in the end. And oh, that was just an overtake. That was just the overtake from before from Van Loosnort. And not that we can't watch it. Nothing too spectacular, but I had a sudden feeling that, or I thought Van Loosnort had an incident or something, and that would indeed be a poor ending to a race that has had a lot of bad luck for Martin Van Loosnort, but it's also been one of the drives of, well, I don't know that much about the man, but it's been a brilliant drive. I'm not going to say if it's been the drive of his life, but he's really gained back. It's been a comeback mission like no other. And for him to be back up in the top 5 is more than impressive. That is absolutely amazing indeed. Now, look at this. We have Robin DeVille still so close to the end of Jeremy Hessels in the Dynamics car. And the Flemish Sim Sports machine. Oh, is that the pit psych? And by the way, Jack, something that I completely failed to notice. We're into the final 2.5 minutes of the race.
We are indeed, but look how close Robin DeVille is now. He'll have the draft assistance from Tom Methrel going into turn 1. I think he's pulled out of the move though, so it's Meraki leading Dynamics, leading Flemish. And I've got a feeling Robin DeVille will stay where he is. I say that, but look how sideways Jeremy Hessel's got coming out of turn 2. Robin DeVille dives to the outside, dives to the inside, chopping each other's noses off. I'm not sure either of them can decide which line they want, but Robin DeVille showing the cold shoulder, flashing his lights in desperation to get past into the second chicane on the brakes nice and early, just to make sure no further contact is caused by the pair of them. But Robin DeVille, he's been at the tail end of this battle for the entire race, and I'm sure he's been watching it and, well, trying hard not just to sit there and overwatch it and follow them into the mistakes. But Robin DeVille, I'm hoping he tries to find a way past going into the closing stages of the race. This is now Pim Bao under pressure from Jack Ashton. We've seen Jack be very confident behind the wheel of that Ford. Pim Bao goes defensive up towards Ascari. BMW popping away on the brakes. That really is a beautiful noise. Sideways for Jack Ashton, not what he wanted. Lost a bit of time. Now we've had an incident with Paul Gosling a little further down the order. I'm not sure whereabouts he is. I think he's towards the tail end. He's in P29 now, going into turn 1. He can't get it slowed down in time, and that is in front of our P3 driver, Ferry Stanley. P3 overall, P1 in class. And that Quantum Racing 4GT, not exactly where it wanted to be placed. There's Ferry Stanley. He's done an absolutely amazing job, but look who is 1.7 seconds behind him. It's Rutger Vinen for Manatee Racing. So going into what will be the last lap of the race, I think it will be next time by we'll get the last lap, because Johnny Verhoef is over halfway around the circuit. I'm guessing he's just on the run up to Ascari roundabout now, so I'm guessing the next lap will be the final lap for Johnny Verhoef, so only another 5.75 kilometer rotation of the Monza circuit left to go. And Ferry Stanley, I'm not sure whether he's classed as under pressure, but 5/10 has Rutger Weinen taken out of Ferry Stanley this time. There's Johnny Verhoef. Will he get across the line within the next 20 seconds? I do think he will. So he might just add one more lap to the lap count. Let's keep an eye on it as he runs up to the line. He will get another lap. So we go on to the final lap now, everybody. Johnny Verhoef crossing the line to go on to what is lap 50 and the final lap. Bram van Putten still in P2, Ferry Stanley P3, Rutger Weinen just about hanging on to the coattails of Ferry Stanley with 1.2 seconds. The gap between the pair of them is come down by about 0.5 of a second within the final lap, so it only takes one small mistake from Ferry Stanley before Rutger Weinen gets onto the tail end. But once again, it's going to come back to that old saying, catching up is one thing and overtaking is quite the other. And we've got to remember, if these two come to strife, if Ferris makes a mistake, Martin van Loosnod is there to pick up the pieces and possibly even end up on the podium.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a far-fetched one for Martin van Loosnod. Oh, it was one of the year one Ferraris go straight through turn one there as well. Because Martin van Loosnod, mind you, he's 20 seconds down on these two, so they could have a small bit of tingle-dangle there without having van Loosnod catching up. Now, Jack, Ferris Stanley, for me, certainly one of the drives of the day. Perhaps there hasn't been too much action around him, but he was pretty close with both Mario Jury and I think he was around Alex Torres at the beginning of the race, but he's just been so consistent all the way through, and I really want him to get that overall podium now, and he's really beginning to come under pressure. I think Rutger Weinen, he has some kind of different pace in this car, because on this lap alone he's close 0.5 of a second. Oh, and he goes wide from the second Lesmo, and I think that should be enough to seal it for Ferris Stanley. It's now up to almost 2 seconds, and I think that's rejoice in the Ferrari, because it wasn't really looking like anyone were able to touch the BMWs, at least on one lap pace in the qualifying session. By the way, Johnny Verhoef, he rounds the Parabolica to take the win of round 2 here at Monza for Manatee Racing, and all of a sudden it's very close at the head of affairs in the SRW GT Pro Series with Bram van Putten second. And then we're going to watch back to see in 13 seconds time they're rounding the corner comes Ferris Stanley, and he's going to win the gold class. He's going to pick up a podium overall here. What a drive from the Monegasque. Rutger Weinen, certainly also a good drive from him, gaining 3 places to end up 4th in the end. And thank you, Hendrik. We certainly enjoyed our racing here today. Jack, Martin van Loosnod, 5th place for him at the end. And with all the bad luck that he's had, what a brilliant one as well.
It really was. Got off to a rotten start. There's Mario Yuri crossing the line, P6. Job Delict. Got to remember, he was in a very, very similar situation to Martin van Loosnod, so a very good comeback drive for him to end up in P7. Alejandro Garcia de la Mata Torres for Zenith Esports crosses the line now and finishes P8. Sam Bentham P9 and Pim Bao P10 will have some more confirmed results a little later on once everybody has crossed the line. Tom Methrel comes out on top of that battle ahead of Jeremy Hessels and Robin DeVille. Sebastian Herberer will be crossing the line P15 and Keanu Bourguignon right the way down in P17 after that incident. So not what he was looking for. There was possibly even, well, we're looking at it, a P12 on the cards for that. But sadly, nothing came of it. And 5 Brits will cross the line of Daniel Handover, Sebastian Hawkins, Ryan Parkins, Ewan Marshall, John Barnes and Jordan McLean make that 6 Brits. And, well, for the first time, I think it's the first time we've seen Ryan Parkins out on track. I can't remember seeing him at Sebring. Please do correct me if I'm wrong. But
it's his first race indeed, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's been a good drive from Ryan Parkins, even though he's had a few incidents along the way. Kept his head down and stayed out on circuit and crossed the line P20. There are the Dynamics Racing Simulators BMW M8 GTE cars in formation. I'm sure that'll make for a couple of good screenshots to go up on social media. But that was an absolutely amazing 90 minutes of racing, and with 51 laps completed in the end, it seemed like, well, 51 laps doesn't seem like quite a lot, but out of 90 minutes of racing, it was definitely full of action.
Absolutely, Jack. This has been such a peach to watch. It's been such a joy to commentate upon. I hope you did truly enjoy the show, because as I said before, me and Jack, he most certainly did. It's been a lot of fun here for one of these 1.5 hours, and they absolutely flew by. A well-deserved win for Johnny Verhoef, a very good second place, and also a very, very strong, consistent drive from Bram van Putten. And Ferris Stanley picking up third place there with the... well, the word consistency springs to mind as well. Whew, I need to catch my breath, I think, almost. That was such an amazing race. We're gonna have the results up for you in a short while once the drivers all get in to their booths, or might it be ready to go over to Jack for the readout already? Oh, it is.
We are indeed. Johnny Verhoef, an absolutely amazing drive for Manatee Racing at the sharp end of the field for a lot of the race. Crossed the line to be the eventual winner of Season 7, Round 2 of the Simracersworld GT Pro Series. Great job from him. And then Bram van Putten for G-Drive Racing Eximia. I did expect to see possibly 2 G-Drive cars or maybe even 2 Manatee cars on the podium, but that wasn't to be. He crossed the line 7 seconds behind Johnny Verhoef in the end to finish P2. Ferris Stanley, what a drive. Finished P3 overall, but P1 in class, more importantly, for HM Engineering. So the lead Ferrari as well. Great job by Ferris Stanley. Then we go back to Rutger Vinen, the second of the Manatee cars, and Martin van Leeuwenhoek, the second of the G-Drive cars, with an absolutely amazing comeback drive. Then P2 on the gold podium for Mario Uri, P6 overall. Job de Ligt across the line, P7, good. A good comeback drive for him. Then Alejandro Torres across the line, P8. Sam Bentham rounding out the gold podium in P9, followed by Pimbau, Jack Ashton, Tom Methrell, Jeremy Hessels. Good little battle between those three. And Robin de Ville. Sebastian Herber across the line, P15, followed by Nicolas Cotonivaux. Keanu Bourguignon sadly losing out, and Daniel Handover across the line, P18. Then Sebastian Hawkins, P19. Ryan Parkins, a great debut race for him, even after coming to strife a little earlier on across the line, P20. Ewan Marshall, P21. John Barnes, P22. Jordan McClone, 23rd. Bart Delman, 24th. Austin Greatorex, 25th. Dries Mujdi, P26. P26, pardon me. Aston Greatorex was P25. John Tusting, P27. Neil Cooper, 28th. Javier Rodriguez, P29. Nicholas Last in P30. Paul Gosling, 31st. Martin van den Ewijk, 32nd. Carl Sharkey, 33rd. Ryan Walker in 34th, followed by Cammy Sturch, Dean Timms, David Fuller, Bod Boland, Marc-Antoine Thibault, and Chris Walsh, I think, retired very, very early on. But that was one hell of a race, and I'm sure we will get a few very, very happy drivers in the interview room in a little moment.
And speaking about the interview room in a little moment, let's kick things off here with Bram van Putten, our second place finisher for today. And welcome, Bram. What a race. Guys. It seemed to be very attritional out there today, maybe even more so than anyone thought. Was that your feeling as well out there on track?
Well, yeah, it was a tough race. Qualifying, was I didn't have a tow, so qualified P6, and luckily there was a bit of carnage in lap 1, so I got to P2 at like turn 3. So first lap was pretty messy, but after that Johnny had a gap, and his teammate behind me was just attacking me, so I had to defend. And if he was gonna get past, he was just gonna back me up. So I had no choice but to defend. But Johnny was getting away, so that was a shame.
And this results really also seem to open up the championship standings, especially with the Manatee cars now also being BMWs. What are your thoughts on that and how that's gonna form the rest of this series?
Yeah, I don't know why they chose the BMW, because the Ford is actually, in my opinion, a bit quicker. But I think they saw us running really good in the BMW, so they also chose it. It will be interesting to see what they can do for the rest of the tracks.
Alright, Bram, and before we kick you out of the commentary booth again, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, thank you guys for the broadcast, and thanks to Simracersworld for setting this whole race up. It was a very fun race. And also thanks to my team, G-Drive Racing Eximia.
And thank you, Bram, for joining us here for this interview. Lovely having you through in the booth. And of course, you're not getting kicked out.
Okay, thanks guys. See ya.
See ya, Bram. Cheers. And with that, we're gonna go over to our reigning champ alongside Jack Werrell. Here's Jack Ashton.
So Jack Ashton, our eventual P11 finisher with a few great battles up and down the order. Jack, if you were going to sum up that race briefly, how would you do it?
So say that again. Sorry, I missed that last bit.
No problem at all. I'm not sure whether it's possible to sum up the race briefly, but because I know you are busy throughout. But if you could sum it up briefly, how would you do it?
Oh, it's just amazing. I loved every moment. I'm such a happy man now because last time out at Sebring, I was having a real tough time. You probably noticed that I was getting lapped probably once or twice. Just having severe problems with the car. I hate blaming setups and I hate blaming other things. It's always you want to improve yourself. I kept plugging away, and I was just nowhere. But I've got a new setup for this week, and all of a sudden it's just transformed how the car feels and how I can drive it. Now I'm where I expect I should be, just about a second off Martin, and that's probably where my pace is instead of 3 seconds a lap off Martin. So it's amazing what a setup can do, and having a great race as well with a nice setup was brilliant tonight. Absolutely loved it.
It did look like you were having fun out there, and obviously you had some great battles along the race. Was there a standout battle for you that really sort of took charge of that?
There was a few battles for sure. Yeah, I can't remember the names of a couple of them because I had a battle with about 20 people this race. But the last remaining battle with me and Pim was great. Great respectful driving from him, and loved every moment of it. That's what I'm here for. And battle for 10th was really on, but didn't quite get it in the end, and he just pipped me. So hats off for a great race.
It was great to watch as well, because we saw you slowly picking up what you could, and then maybe you'd lose a bit of time and then gain it back again, and it was properly close racing. And let's hope we can carry that momentum going in towards the rest of the season. But 2 weeks' time we go to Watkins Glen. What's Watkins like as a circuit for you? Do you like it, or is it something you just want to get done and out the way and push forward for the rest of the season?
I love the circuit, but I'm terrible. It's them sweeping bends. In GT cars, I'm not a sweeping bend kind of guy. I just tend to lose the rear a lot, and that's not my kind of circuit. Hopefully I can try and nail a setup this time round. But I've gained a lot of incidents over these last 2 weeks, so I might just do a little qualifying ban for next week, because I know I'm not that great at Watkins. So we'll see how it goes.
We've also got to remember, though, you did mention the qualifying ban. I think you get 10 incident points gained back for when you're doing that. So is that a reasoning behind it? Or?
Yeah, that's the reasoning behind it. So I didn't go into it, but yeah, I managed to pick myself up 20 incident points here tonight. So I really was going gun ho because I was enjoying myself so much. So I kind of forgotten about the fact that we really need to make sure we keep the incidents down. But that will teach me, I guess.
Well, sure, it was very much worth it. But while I've got you in the box, and before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Ford for everything they do for me. Happy to be a part of the team. My teammate Cammy as well out there. She's having a tough time driving the GT, but she's enjoying it nevertheless. She's usually the Formula sort of style driver, so it's quite a stepping stone to jump something into this. But and a thanks to you guys as well for the stream. I'm probably going to have fun watching it back later tonight or tomorrow.
Well, I hope we put on a good show for you, but we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Cheers.
And that was Jack Werrell with Jack Ashton, so Jack on Jack, and they could probably get going for a long time indeed with that. Let's go to our pole sitter for today. Not a podium finisher, bit of a surprise perhaps in that line, but we've got Martin van Loosenhoort with us today after this round. And Martin, I think if I say for you it was an eventful race, I'm not understating it, am I?
It was definitely eventful, yeah.
So
not what I expected, but
first lap pole position, and you found yourself down in 7th. We didn't get any real chance to play that back, so could you explain our viewers what actually happened?
Yeah, I was just braking at the 150 mark, somewhere just a bit later, I think, for turn 1, and then suddenly I saw Niklas Last flying into me. I think he braked somewhere near the 50 mark. So he basically punted me off the track, and I had to pick the slowdown as I tried to avoid him, and that gave me damage and the first lap slowdown. So like you say, I was somewhere around P7 then. I because of the damage, I couldn't keep up with the leaders, because I had, I think, 3 or 4 kilometers per hour top speed loss. So then with the pit stop, I had a 40-second what was it, penalty because of the pit speed penalty, I think. So yeah, that was also not good. That was driver mistake, and then crawled back to P5. So that was good, but yeah, mistake by myself. And I think definitely the Nicolas didn't have to, put me off the track in the turn 1.
Well, it was I was lost for words over what kind of recovery drive it was for you to finish 5th. You were in 19th place at some point, and it was looking very, very difficult for you. It was the same kind of drive from Joop de Ligt, but he didn't quite manage to gain back. I just gotta say, amazing job on that one, Martin. Can't wait to see you again on track in 2 weeks. Before we let you go here from the booth, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, thank you guys for covering this series. Thank you to Ian and his whole crew to set this series up. Thank you G Drive Racing Eximia and Bram van Putten for this week especially.
Well, indeed, there it is. And thank you for joining us here for this interview, Martin. I think that's all we're going to have time for here for tonight. You're on Simracersworld TV. But Jack, I certainly have been enjoying myself, and it's been my impression that it's been the same kind of situation for you. Am I right?
Oh, 100%. This is round 2, and we're seeing drivers fight closer than I ever expected, which does mean that they've got that trust in each other, and they know how close they can race and also what they can get away with in terms of maybe slightly aggressive defending, and I think that's just great to see. It's a perfect recipe for nice close racing, and well, the BMWs have been good at Sebring, and they've been quite good at Monza as well, but going into Watkins Glen where there's a lot of high downforce, yes, there's a bit of straight here and there, but lots of high downforce corners and a heavy braking zone into turns 1, and I think that's possibly, I think it might be 9, I can't remember, don't take my word for it. But it could bring the Ferrari up through the mix as well, and possibly even the Fords as well. So 2 weeks time for round 3, everybody. It's going to be a very busy one. And also tomorrow we've got exactly the same thing, it's exactly the same time with exactly the same cars. Just the only thing that's different drivers, and it's a different championship. It is the GT Evo Series. Same time, same place tomorrow night. Indeed,
that's very much true. So join us tomorrow. Join us this weekend for the Simracersworld Sunday GT3 series. We have 2 weeks until the aforementioned race at Watkins Glen, and just like last time after Sebring, I just can't wait for those 2 weeks to just get done with, basically. So everyone who's been watching along on Twitch, on Facebook, and of course on our YouTube stream, I hope you have enjoyed it. I certainly have, as I said before, and from myself, from Jack Werrell, it's going to be it for tonight. So thank you so much for watching along, and until next time, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.
When I think of the future, I think of the